You, me, and HIFMB. Stories of Science and the Sea.
Hey all, in this episode I had the pleasure of talking to Kristin Tietje, who is our scientific coordinator in the Marine Governance Group. And we met here because she was a scientific coordinator in my previous project, where she tried to coordinate 5 different projects under the same call, all based in Germany, and tried to coordinate the culmination of those projects in a policy recommendation action, basically in an event that was held earlier this year. And further, we talk about what it means to be a scientific coordinator, how she got there, how she got the various roles, what it means to work part-time, and like we always do on this podcast, talk about how she got where she is today. And with that, I give you Kristin Tietje. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the HIFMB podcast. Today I have Kristin Tietje, the governance scientific coordinator of the governance group.
Hi, Jan.
Hello.
Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no worries. So, scientific coordinator, that's one role that we haven't covered on the podcast yet, and I would like to get into what that is. Like, what kind of job is it?
Okay, first of all, a great job, of course. I enjoy having this job.
Yeah.
But it's about, I think I thought about it before we met today, and I think it's all about being a good listener, first of all, being creative, trying to craft some events and ideas to bring people together, to build synergy, also to leverage the visibility of projects and collaborative research actions.
Okay.
And basically it's writing emails and talking to people.
You don't coordinate the science that is going on, you coordinate between the scientists.
Yeah, I coordinate between the scientists. I think one of the major resources of scientists is time.
Yeah.
And to bring or to make a platform to bring people together, to work together and create something new, I think that's what I was doing in my past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a scientific background, of course, but I don't do science myself. With a little exception, I actually work with 2 colleagues of mine on a project which might end up in a publication, but we'll see this. It's not.
Can you talk about it? You don't have to.
Just roughly.
Okay.
It's about processes, how you co-create and work together in a transdisciplinary context. Mm-hmm. Basically it. And it's also reflecting on some measures and some research practices of the Belmont Forum projects, which I was working on in my last position.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I'm going to get into in a second. But first, you coordinate scientists at HIFMB for the governance group now more specifically. How many scientific coordinators do we have?
Oh, I think it's not so many. It's I think Ruth Krause is a scientific coordinator at our HIFMB. Mm-hmm. And then we have the transfer office, but these are pure scientists and communicators. I would frame it like that.
Okay.
And of course, there's people like Sophie, which are super supportive in her role.
Sophie
but I think,
Eckert.
Yeah, but I think she has another role. It's not officially the position of a scientist coordinator.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. All right, and you mentioned before you were employed under a Belmont Forum project. Mm-hmm. Can you briefly explain what that is?
So it's I was employed as a scientific coordinator in a project that was funded by the BMBF.
Okay.
And it was
Bundesministerium für Bildung und Forschung, so the Federal Ministry for Education and Science.
Exactly.
Research.
Research, yeah, exactly. And this coordination position was positioned actually at the HIFMB, but I was in charge together with colleagues of mine, which are still working on the project and are located in Sweden and also in the US. Mm-hmm. So we worked together as a coordination team on a collaborative research action that was initiated by the Belmont Forum, Future Earth, and JPI Oceans. And the name of the call is Transdisciplinary Research for Ocean Sustainability. Mm-hmm. And it's a framework for 13 projects that were funded, I think, at the beginning of 2020. Sorry, not 2020.
2020.
And it's different projects. And the precondition for those projects were that one project is a collaboration of minimum 3 countries. Mm-hmm. Involving actors in science or scientific researcher, but also stakeholders from different backgrounds. And these projects cover many different themes, all working toward sustainable ocean, from artificial reefs in Madagascar to assessment frameworks for ocean multi-use, so marine spatial planning, but also ocean acidification, global shipping questions, policy and also economic questions, and also conservation management plans for ocean fonds. And there's also the Marisco project.
Yes.
I know you were a part of it. Maybe
Yeah.
you can, with one phrase, talk about Marisco.
Yeah, so I have a leg up on this because I was involved in this Syncra Ocean, is I think the abbreviation.
Syncra Ocean was my project. It's
Yeah.
CRA Ocean. Yeah, exactly.
CRA Ocean. Yeah, so it was all under this call, Research Call for Actions or something it's called, by the Belmont Forum. One of the projects was Marisco, which I have no idea what it stands for, to be honest. It was a really long thing. But through the magic of editing, I could look it up, and it stands for kind of Marine Research and Innovation for a Sustainable Management of Coasts and Oceans. Marisco, which
Awesome.
I think in Spanish also means seashell or fish? Seafood. It means seafood. So yeah, and in this project we looked at two sites, the Wadden Sea in part of the southern North Sea here in Europe, and the Algoa Bay in South Africa. And we wanted to see how biodiversity is changing there, what its effect is on people, and yeah, how we can manage it better in creation and co-design with the stakeholders there. Oops.
Yeah, and that was one of the very interesting projects. And but also there were projects, I missed it and I wrote it down over here.
Yeah.
On ocean conflict. And I think it's more than 2 projects dealing with ocean conflicts
Yeah.
and resources of the ocean. Yeah.
And you coordinated between those projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was responsible mainly for those projects with German participation. So we had 5 projects where either the project lead was located in Germany or project partners. But I was also in charge of coordinating actions and workshops and sessions and some other events together with my colleague from Sweden, Michael Gilek and Fred Saunders, and also a former colleague who was also part of the coordination team from the US, Megan, and now we have Fanny Kisbe in our team. And soon there's going to be a new person that will be located at HIFMB because I recently switched positions and a new person will take over my role.
Yeah. So the whole project, I think a little bit of the background, at least for our project, which was one of the 5 German ones that got totally shot to pieces by the corona pandemic, because when the proposal was put in, we had a lot of plans of traveling between South Africa, the US, Germany, and all of this didn't happen. So partly the German funding didn't get extended. So my funding didn't get extended, but our project partners, they did get extended by a year. So, and now all of these projects were kind of like out of sorts, and some of them are still running and some of them are finished.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the situation right now.
Yeah. Okay. And you were coordinating while they were running, you were within the pandemic, you were coordinating between them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was during the pandemic and even after, I mean, when every lab and travel was possible again, people could work on the study sites and the case studies again. But it wasn't only Marisco being affected by the pandemic. Many of those projects, because they are highly international and they have, many of them work with case studies that are sometimes also in remote places, and there were many travel restrictions. So it was a big challenge to have this transdisciplinary project with so many actors in charge, bringing them to work. But I think they were quite successful.
Yeah. No,
but also a big challenge, of course, yeah.
Exactly. Transdisciplinarity, for everyone who doesn't know, is like, so you go beyond science. So interdisciplinarity would be you are between scientific disciplines, and then trans is including stakeholders, managers,
societal
politicians.
actors.
Yeah, exactly. Side actors, yeah.
Societal
Actors, sorry. Yeah. NGOs, all of that. Yeah. You include them all in a transdisciplinary project.
And that makes it so beautiful, but also so complicated, right?
Exactly. Especially during the pandemic, when we had so many workshops planned in our project and they all didn't materialize because, they did materialize, but online. And it would have been a lot cooler if we could all just be in a room, stick our heads together and just work on making the Wadden Sea or Algoa Bay better.
Yeah, it's all about being capable of adaptation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. We did adapt.
Yeah.
So now you've switched positions, you mentioned. Yeah. And you will be replaced by, is it known who yet? Or
it's not official.
Okay.
I've already been in contact with a person.
Okay.
Super great.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
Cool.
It soon will be official.
Yeah. And then they will continue doing this for another 2 years?
It's
or?
for 1.5 years, I assume.
Okay.
And it's the idea is to work more with the international cohort, since the German-based project, the funding is it's finished at the moment, and there are already plans. Of course, this is all top secret, but I have heard that there are some ideas to have some site maybe or apply for site activities at the Ocean Decade Conference in Barcelona. We never know if this is going to be accepted, right?
Yeah.
But great and cool stuff is going to happen soon.
Yeah, nice. Sweet. And maybe to make this whole science coordination stuff more graspable and more hands-on, do you have some examples of what you produced during your time in the projects?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's two actions, I call it actions.
Yeah, actions, yes.
I like a lot because we ended actually producing something you can touch when you print it, because it's illustrations, right?
Yeah.
And I like these illustrations a lot. And at the beginning of my project, and at the Synchro Ocean project, I teamed up with my colleague Ruth Krause from the HIFMB. And we were involved in the VCOP days. So the Virtual Early Career Ocean Professional Day. And it was within the framework of the Ocean Decade. It was just a day of great and inspiring program, which was hosted by Germany, by some of those great initiatives over here in Germany. And they kicked it off in Germany, and after a certain time or certain slots, it was handed over to another country. So it went around the globe within 24 hours.
Ah, okay.
It was a very intense and great experience, and we were part of it with one workshop. It was an official Ocean Decade action. And we had a live discussion on mental health for early career researcher in ocean science, basically. And we had a graphical recorder with us, and she made a great illustration or great poster, which you can freely download at the HIFMB website if you would be interested, and you can use it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different animals. And let's talk about this workshop first.
Yeah, exactly.
Not about the output. So we had some people, some early career researchers who were willing to share their stories and their experiences. I'm not a professional working with mental health, right? It's just a topic we all face in our daily work. And it was also about motivation when you work with the most pressing challenges of the globe, right? Biodiversity crisis, climate crisis, and all the wars. And it's all about taking care of yourself and managing that you still have the capacity to work on your projects as early career researcher, but not only as early career researcher, of course. And we had a poll asking all the participants who had already experienced some mental health issues. I'm not sure if this is the right phrase here, but I was impressed in a negative way, because more than, I think, 65% of the participants indicated that they already experienced or they are dealing, for example, with imposter syndrome or stuff like that. So it was really intense. But also, on the other hand, those participants shared their ideas and tricks how to keep the motivation high from their experience, right? And this illustration I was talking about, you have different animals. For example, there's a goby and the pilot shrimp representing this great symbiosis you have in the ocean. And they have a bubble, like in a comic, and it's written over. Is there? I need to read it out. It's written. Co-create a valuing and caring culture, for example. Okay. And another example on this illustration, you really have to have a look because it's colorful and fancy and great and gives us good vibes. But there's another one. It's a sea urchin, and it says "set boundaries." Yeah. So take care of yourself. Yeah. So that's basically it. And it was great. It was inspiring, but also it's
Was this only created at HIFMB, or was it only participants from HIFMB?
No, it was an open call. So we used different social media platforms beforehand to ask for volunteers who'd like to be part of this live discussion. Okay. And we had them in this workshop, and parallel people could just listen to the workshop, right? Okay. They were also able to interact with us via this poll, or also via asking questions in the chat window. Yeah.
Did you have a lot of feedback on this? Like, this is, I'm sure this is quite a unique output, right, for a science coordinator?
Yeah. We had feedback on it, very diverse, because some of this is really playful. It's also about talking about dance to crazy music, right? And I appreciate it a lot. And people were smiling after the workshops, and And we even had a follow-up session with those people that actively participated on it, and we talked about it. And yeah, I think it was quite positive feedback. And I hope, and I can only also talk for Ruth as well, we both hope that, of course, we bring some, it's not our ideas, right? The people that participated hopefully shared some great ideas how to keep your motivation high. And of course, there's always the option to seek for help, right? If you suffer severe mental health issues, take care of yourself, take a break, and just seek for help, for professional help, right?
Exactly, like it's highlighted in the output. It's a cool output. You should really look at it. If you just Google VCOP, so VECOP and HIFMB, you'll find it. It's Collective Steps for Healthy Researchers and Healthy Oceans. Yep. And then with Synchra Ocean, you did another great output, another science coordination output that you want to talk about.
Yeah, it would be great. First of all, I forget that my PI, of course, is Helmut Hillebrandt.
Yeah.
So I'm not the PI, but it was super great to work together with him. And also Ruth Krause was involved in framing my position. So I really wanted to mention those two. Thanks to both of you. And hello, shout out to them.
Yeah. Big shout out. Like Helmut was also my PI at Morisco.
Yeah. And the other action or event or meeting I wanted to talk about was a knowledge transfer event we organized. And this was mainly the final meeting of those projects with German participation. So 5 of those, Beaumont Forum, Syria Oceans call. And we met. I mean, I couldn't say that I met because I was sick with COVID, so I couldn't join.
Yeah, but you organized it all. Yeah. I remember this. Like I was at the call at the final meeting as well. It was really well organized.
Yeah, from my living room. Yeah. And so basically, the group of people and also people from HIFMB went to Berlin to the Wissenschaftsforum. So we had a room over there, and you met one day, and you worked together on an illustration. Together with an illustrator, I need to say again. She was awesome, Charlotte Hinzmann.
Was it the same illustrator as for the other one?
No, the other one was Gabriele Schlipf.
Okay.
So many different people.
Right.
And this output was all about the why is transdisciplinary research for ocean sustainability so important, but also how can you ensure or what do you need to conduct those projects? Yeah. And the third question was, what do you need to make these projects successful, right? Yeah. So you ended up with 10 recommendations covering these questions, for example. The need for platforms and mechanisms for exchange and co-learning is one of the items, and ending up on the illustrations. And again, you should have a look on the illustration because it's beautiful and very rich in information, I think.
It really is. I mean, this illustration specifically got given to the Sebastian Unger. I don't know what is...
He's a special representative for the ocean of the German government.
Okay, yes. I only know his title in German, but that's exactly. So so he is really important for policy when it comes to the oceans in Germany.
Exactly.
And this was handed over to him, and he really thought this was very valuable to have as a really cool guide of 10 steps that you need to progress with transdisciplinary research.
Yeah, and we were super happy that he came, and it was a very great example of knowledge transfer, right?
Exactly,
so we were super happy to have him and to hand it over to him. Yeah. But we also handed over policy recommendations of these 5 projects.
Exactly. Yeah, so specifically. So those 5 projects came together and really put all their work together into these 10 steps, and then individually also gave policy recommendations. And like, for instance, how I really got involved in that figure that we're talking about, I think it's number 4 or something, where our recommendation was to give money to the stakeholders, because what we saw through Morisco is that often stakeholders wanted to join, but they're not paid to do so. Yeah. They're pretty much mentioned in the proposal, in a scientific proposal, and then they have to participate, but are not reimbursed for anything. Often they have to pay for the travel out of pocket even, and it's additional time that they're not paid for. So on top of all their work, they have to do this participation in a workshop, for instance. And we saw that money from the pot that is made available for research should be made available for the stakeholders to come. So for managers from, let's say, the Lower Saxon water body management official place. I don't know what it's called in English. Let's see. So our specific stakeholder there was the Lower Saxon State Department for Waterway, Coastal and Nature Conservation. And if there was money made available by the project fund, they could then be paid and reimbursed for their time that they spend with us.
Yeah, and maybe also for a co-creation process, right?
Exactly.
During the application process.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So this was only one step where I was really adamant on having it in there, and the other projects also got involved in the other steps, and altogether it was a really fruitful experience.
Another bullet point or number on this illustration is also having fair and equitable partnerships, so and without any power imbalances, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is also very crucial, and I think there's something we all could learn, and it would be great if we could all implement this in our research projects.
So thank you so much for coordinating that this came together, coordinating these 5 projects to come up with such great recommendations for the German government. It's, I think, really helpful. And the recommendations go beyond, but they go beyond the German government, but they have been given to them specifically as like a gesture, a symbolic gesture, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I would have loved to participate, but next time.
I mean, you were there in spirit and online.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for this. Because I'm quite interested in how you got there as a person. I wanted to talk about your CV, your personal life. Not your personal life, your professional life.
It's all intermixed, right?
Exactly. Yes. So you started as a bachelor. You're a homegrown, so you started your bachelor in Oldenburg.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing my bachelor's over here in Oldenburg.
Yeah.
And I think my bachelor was still, it was a biology bachelor.
Yeah.
I was always interested in marine wildlife, biodiversity, crabs and fish and copperpodes and everything else.
How did it come to be? Are you from the area? Or?
I come from a very small village close to where the River Elbe hits the North Sea.
Mm-hmm. What's it called?
Kattenberge.
Kattenberge.
I'm going to make it popular.
Yeah, exactly.
With a C, Kattenberge.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody calls you Tine, right? Not Kristin.
Yeah.
And Tine Tietje is a super northern German name, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my bachelor's over here in Oldenburg, and I was so lucky to be able to do an internship in Reykjavik in Iceland,
yes.
where we did some field trip and studied some rock crabs. And I also was involved. I mean, I was just standing in the corner, but I was very happy to be part of a team that was working with an autonomous underwater vehicle. It was super fancy, but back then I didn't understand really what this is all about. But it was just a great experience, right?
Did you get to operate it?
No.
Because that's like, have you seen when we commentated the swarm online? One of the researchers then says, just controlling an autonomous underwater vehicle, that's something that first semesters do.
Yeah, I mean, I was touching it once, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not reality.
Yeah.
What you see on TV is not reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I did my master's also in Oldenburg. I always wanted to change and always wanted to switch university, but I was just,
you did kind of Iceland.
Yeah, but it's a cool place over here, right? It's not too big, It's like a big family, I would like to say. Yeah,
absolutely.
So you have many chances, right? If you network and if you just get to know each other. And then in my master's, I slightly switched and changed that direction. I was, of course, still working a little bit in marine biology, let's say it like this. But also started to become interested in neurobiology and genetics and all this kind of lab stuff you can do as biologists.
And what was your master's thesis topic?
I hoped you're not going to ask for it.
Sorry, that's why it's not on the CV.
No, it's totally fine. I was actually doing it. So it was a collaboration between University of Oldenburg and AWI, Alfred Wegener Institute.
Yes.
So both our mother institutes of the HIFMB, right?
Yeah.
And I was working with a worm and a fluorescent dye, basically.
Okay.
So I was dyeing the inner organs of a little worm.
Yeah.
It was fancy.
and that's how you got involved with neuroscience?
No, yeah. Basically, yes. Yeah,
okay.
That's true. A little bit.
Yeah.
But it was more about this fluorescent dye.
Okay.
Yeah. And also during our masters, I wanted to say. Yeah,
exactly.
There's another thing, which I think it's quite fun. During my masters, I think 2011, I was doing a semester abroad and in Australia at the James Cook University, and I was sitting outside having a beetroot sandwich, I think, surrounded by the beautiful tropical Australia, and then there was Jan sitting on the same lunch table.
Yeah, exactly.
So we never met. It was the first time we met. It was quite fun.
In Australia, in
Yeah.
Townsville.
Yeah, that was quite fun. And we went diving and stuff like that together.
Yeah.
And just a very fun anecdote. And I think 9 years later, I applied for my first position at HIFMB. It was an online interview. And there was Jan again.
Yeah, that was me.
In the panel.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was weird. Like seeing your face pop up and then
Yeah,
what?
it's like, oh, wow, it's you.
Yeah.
I didn't get the job because of Jan. I just need to say, right?
No, exactly. No. Because of the quality of work you've done before.
I hope so, at least.
Yes, absolutely.
No, but that was my master's coming back to. That was basically my master's. And then
How long were you in Townsville?
it was just one semester, but we ended up traveling quite some. We did quite some distance in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think I was in Australia for nearly a year or something with a friend of mine.
Nice. And then what came after that? You were a PhD student, right?
Yeah, I applied for, fun story, I applied again for a PhD position at the RV, but they didn't choose me. We're not going to talk about which group.
Okay.
I talked to my former supervisor of my bachelor thesis, Gabi Gerlach. She's also part of the HIFMB. And she was like, oh yeah, your ideas are fun and interesting, but I'm not sure if you get funding for your fancy ideas you wanted to implement during your PhD. But listen, I have a great project, and here's the proposal. You can have a read, and in case you like it, you can apply for it. So this is what I did, right?
Yeah.
And I switched from worms to small freshwater fish.
Yeah, zebrafish, right?
Zebrafish, yeah. In my PhD, I worked with basically the noses of baby fish.
Of baby zebrafish?
Yeah, baby zebrafish.
Nice.
About kin recognition, so they can smell if the water comes from their siblings or from a fish they've never met before.
Oh, okay, could this fish that they've never met before also be a conspecific? Like
Yeah.
Like
A zebrafish as well.
Yeah, okay, right.
I mean, even they met this fish before, but they prefer in a certain age, they prefer, as larvae basically, they prefer the smell of their siblings. Exactly.
Okay.
There was a phenomenon around it.
So the family sticks together.
Yeah, the family sticks together, right.
Okay. Hopefully no inbreeding.
No, yeah, and that's the interesting part, because at a certain age of these fish, some days later, they don't prefer their siblings anymore.
All right.
And they switch in the behavior experiments. They swim into or towards the direction where the smell is from not from siblings anymore, but from conspecifics they are not related to.
Does that time point correlate with sexual maturity?
It's a little bit before, but yes.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Quite a funny story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also studied where, of course, the nose, where the receptors are for detecting the smell, but also where the information is transferred into the brain.
Okay, and this was also at Oldenburg?
Yeah, University of Oldenburg with Gabi Gerlach, exactly.
Yeah, nice. In the Biodiversity and Evolution of Animals group.
Exactly, yeah.
Sweet. And then postdoc.
Yeah, postdoc. I, again, tried to go abroad. But then a new group leader from a Max Planck Institute came to Oldenburg. And he was a newly appointed professor. And he was interested in genetic architecture in, again, small freshwater fish and rice fish.
Yeah.
And he was looking for a postdoc. And I was there, basically. And we would started to talk about some potential projects. And I ended up having a great position. It was, I think, even a 5 years postdoc position. And it was good fun, great stuff. I was, again, working with fish, having my hands in the aquarium Monday to, Fridays, and doing genetic analysis and lab work. Yeah, that was my postdoc. But after, I think, 2 or 1 years of my postdoc, my partner got sick. And he became a severe diagnosis. And so I decided to take care of him and do care work.
Okay.
He was also a researcher at University of Oldenburg. He was a postdoc. And it was, of course, if you want to have a career in science, you have to publish, right? You have to publish. Yeah. And this is sometimes not possible if there's also life in between your scientific work. Yeah, and I wasn't able to have my full concentration in the lab anymore. Yeah. So I wasn't publishing, basically. Yeah. And in the same time, or during the same time period, I realized that I really like to work with people. And I mean, I enjoyed also lab work, right? Yeah. But I like to work with people, to do some brainstorming, create some, inspiring. Whatever I did was inspiring at all, but I like to create new ideas, new formats. And I applied for my first scientific coordination position during that time. And it was an experience for me. And I know that some of the people I was surrounded by, they thought it's a career downgrade to leave science, to leave my great postdoc position that was funded for 3 more years. And I stayed in science. I did a 50% postdoc position and 50% scientific coordination position. I wouldn't recommend it because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And people were thinking, oh, sorry, it's very, I don't know, we're sorry for you that you have to leave science and do scientific coordination, do project management and stuff like that. How boring. But actually, it's not boring at all. I appreciate it so much. And it was so great. I mean, as I said, also appreciated my lab work and my postdoc, but I started working in a research training group. And we was basically working with, I think, also 13 or 15 different projects and PhD projects. And it was super interesting because I had the chance to get a glimpse on so many projects, get to know different techniques, what they're doing, but also because it was such an international cohort of PhD students, hello to all of them, I learned so much about their culture, also scientific culture, right, about their traditions, and it was a really rich environment for me. Yeah, and it was all about the molecular basis of sensory biology.
Yeah, nice.
So nose, ear, eye, magnetoreception maybe as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the research training group. Why is it called the research training group 1885?
Oh, it's just a number, the funding number from the funding from the DFG, the German Forschungsgemeinschaft oder Gesellschaft. I never know.
The German Society for Research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just the funding number 1885.
Right. I thought it's the founding year.
No, that would. Oh my God, that would have been impressive.
Yeah. Okay, and during that time, you were also an equal opportunity officer?
Yeah.
Is that the same?
Same institute.
Group? Okay.
I was a representative. It was just one of many of the equal opportunity officers at the university at the faculty 5. And I was working in a team, right? I was very naive, I must say. I didn't know what kind of work is going to involve this role. But I learned a lot, I must say. I was quite naive, but I learned a lot. There was some conflicts. I learned a lot from already experienced colleagues of mine. Yeah. Again, some people back in 2020, I don't know when it was, had a weird concept sometimes for equal opportunity, and they thought these positions are, I don't know, a little bit annoying, especially in interview processes, because those positions were mainly there to make sure that interviews and job interviews are inclusive. Okay. And basically it. Yeah. And it was challenging, but also I learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And you only did this for 2 years within the span of your 4-year research coordination?
Yeah, because I realized it was just too much, right? Having one postdoc position for 50%, having one research training group, and also being an equal opportunity officer, I realized that I have to cut down at some point. Yeah. And then,
I know a couple of people who have two part-time jobs. And how do you properly allocate time? Like, everybody expects you to work full time, not knowing that you actually work 2 jobs. Yeah. 50%, both of them.
I divided it by weekdays, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So Mondays, this position, Tuesday, this position, and I tried my best. But sometimes there were, of course, a longer lab experiments that run more than one day.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
And I just talked to most of my PIs and just organized myself in a way. But I also had a lot of freedom in both positions. So both of them were no micromanager, so I was able to organize myself. And it was challenging, but it was also okay because I got freedom and a framework that was trying to make it possible.
Yeah. Speaking of like superiors in quotations, did you have, for science communication, did you have somebody who you looked up, or who was basically your Yoda as a scientific coordinator?
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. I think so. I mean, there were colleagues at the University of Oldenburg, right? I was doing my PhD also with a group of other PhDs, and we had a scientific coordinator, and she was Beate. Hi, Beate.
Yeah, hi, Beate.
She was like a second mom to us. Yeah. She did such a great job. Yeah. And also, of course, there's also Ferdinand Esser and other colleagues.
Yeah, I know Ferdinand, yes.
Yeah, I'm working with them, or I work with them. But when I was a PhD, they helped me a lot, and I liked what they were doing, actually. And I think that was how I got interested in this kind of job.
Would you like to be the same, or would you like to be viewed the same later down the line,
yes.
like as Beate, as like a second mom?
No, a second mom, maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to be a second mom, but
Yeah.
I'd like to be a person that's approachable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that leads us perfectly into this, because during your time at HIFMB, you also became a person of trust.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about that for a second, what that entailed.
Yeah, that's complex.
Yeah.
So basically, HIFMB is a unicorn.
Yeah.
So I like the atmosphere a lot over here. Of course, there are conflicts and everyone, like in every institute, but I think it's somehow a bit special in a positive way. But of course, at some point, a growing institute realizes that there will be conflicts. There will always be conflicts, or so maybe some mental health situations or PhD suffer from the pressure and so on. So there was a need of forming a group as ombudsperson or approachable people in case there's any issues. And this is why the directorate, or Helmut and Ruth, basically called for a group or people that would like to volunteer for a person of trust team. And I thought, okay, why not? I mean, let's see how much workload it is.
Yeah. How much workload is it?
Actually, no one is talking to me now. No, I think because before I was in a third-party funded project, and I wasn't involved in the core groups of the HIFMB, so I wasn't so visible for the early career researchers, for example.
Yeah.
So I know some other colleagues, for example, Ut and Doro, and also Maren, and they've been approached way more often. But it's not only about the workload, right? It's also about the topics you are exposed to, right? So, of course, it's not everything is great and happy, and there's some people that have conflicts or suffer from some personal or from some situations. So these are not always nice and entertaining and great stories, right? So you have to be able to listen to them and try to seek for some solutions. And so I think it's not so much about the workload, but about what you are exposed to.
Yeah. Okay. Managing your mental health.
Yeah, managing mental health, for example, or I think the career stage of a PhD is, I think, one of the most intense career stages you can be in, right? There's power dynamics, there's expectations, you have to publish, you have to be super, there has to be a certain amount of output, and it's intense, right?
Did you feel that as well during your PhD, and that it's more intense as compared to your later stages as a postdoc?
Yes and no, because I think I was super naive.
Yeah, okay.
I was super protected, it's like having a great environment. But no, I could sense it, of course, I could feel it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of I think successful PhD careers, they stand and fall with a good environment, with a good supervisor.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have on my list here the scientific coordinator for the integrated research training group, which is a different one?
It's a different one,
okay.
Exactly. The first research training group on the molecular basis of sensory biology that ran, the project funding was over. And so there was another big group, a CRC, an SFB, a collaborative research center. They work with magnetic orientation or navigation in vertebrates.
Ah, okay.
So they had the need. They started their second funding period. DFG funded again. And they saw the need of a research training group, of course. And I was really happy because I was already involved in shaping the research training group for the application process. And there was an experience I've never had before, to be asked by the PIs, professors, you've got some experience, would you like to brainstorm with us and just shape how the research training group is going to be in the future. It was super great, and I was really thankful to be part of this writing process. I mean, my colleague, my former supervisor Karin Dedek, she was the person, and Heiko Schmaljohann, sorry, hi Heiko. They were mainly writing it, but it was great fun and great experience.
Yeah, great. But all this was 50%, right? All of your scientific coordination roles up to that point were 50%,
exactly.
like part-time.
Yeah, I was so in parallel to this position, to the research training group in the animal navigation group, I was having my Synchro Ocean project at HIFMB.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now you've made the move to the Marine Governance Group.
Finally, I have one full-time position.
As scientific coordinator.
As scientific coordinator, right. I saw the job post actually at the HIFMB website.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Why not? And marine governance, that's something I've been in touch with these topics in my Beaumont Forum or Grey Ocean project, but I'm not a specialist on these topics, right? I'm a biologist by training.
Yeah.
But I thought it's very interesting what the group is doing. And of course, I was at some point also interested in having just one position and not two 50% positions. And honestly, I've listened to Kim's podcast, Kimberly Peters, she's the group lead.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, she sounds like a nice person and what she's doing is interesting. And I just applied.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And successfully.
Yeah, I was super lucky.
Yeah.
It's my 4th week now in my new position.
Oh, right. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Maybe like advising your former self, would you do this route that you've taken, maybe without the forced break in between, but would you do the same route again, becoming a scientific coordinator?
Yes, definitely yes, but not so chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. Not this 50% part-time thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was quite messy or chaotic, but my different career steps.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it so much. I think it's super great and super inspiring to work with scientific projects, to be involved in. I mean, I'm not involved scientifically, but I get insights from so different projects. I learn a lot. I feel like a bachelor student at the moment because I learn some concepts of marine governance and stuff like that. It's super interesting. But also on the other hand, I have the freedom to create my own sub-projects, to create some new formats, to...
Like what, for instance? Can you say?
So this is not clear for the new position, but I know that there's a fancy aquarium project and I might be involved.
A fancy what?
Aquarium project.
Yeah, okay.
So again, fish and tanks.
Yeah.
Something I love.
Yes.
But this is not, we need to figure out together. And there's also ideas for, some secret ideas. I can't tell you, but in case we implemented it, it's going to be on the HIFMB website and maybe also on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
But there's going to be great stuff, hopefully, coming around the corner.
Absolutely. And I think like maybe the route that you've taken is now helping the position as a scientific coordinator because you've been through the PhD, you've been through a postdoc phase, you've experienced this all. And now if people come to you as a person of trust or as a scientific coordinator, you already know what kind of problems or some of the problems they've experienced likely. I hope it can help. Yeah, you've gone through it.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, nice. So we're already past the 45-minute mark.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything that wasn't mentioned that you maybe want to highlight?
I think I just want to say one thing. It's not a downgrade if you decide to make a career in science coordination or science management. I think it's a super great option to still be involved in science and still be involved in project, but work with people and just motivate people, try to generate platforms to bring them together. I think it's a great job. Yeah. So people do it if you're interested in it. Exactly. And like scientific coordinators like yourself, like Ruth, like Sophie at the Institute here, they are so invaluable. Like this project I was involved in, this workshop in Berlin, making that happen. And it's such a big help to us as well. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing. It's incredible. Thank you for being part of it. Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Okay. Have a great day. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. See ya.
Want to dive deeper? Surf over to hifmb.de or follow us on Twitter at hifmb_OL.